Hello there, this is Chris with Audio Discovery. So earlier today, I got a comment on one of my videos from Bros Isinda House. What's up, Bros? And Bros asks, thanks for the video. How did you treat your voice for this video? I like the way the compressor works. It would be awesome if you could show how you set it up. And so what I'm going to reveal, and I think that this is pretty much what is known from this community already, is I am incredibly lazy. So there are certain aspects of, whoa, I'm getting some feedback. What is that? Okay, sorry. I'm incredibly lazy and I don't want to put more effort than I really need to because, you know, of busy life and a bunch of different interests and whatnot. Okay, so here's the short answer is so I'm running through an RME Fireface UFX. It's an expensive unit. I pay a lot of money for it. And that is, it's got an onboard dynamics section and EQ section that I run my microphones through. Now, previous microphones I've used a Rode NT1A, and then the shock mount to that, the rubber bands are stretching, and I've looked for replacements. I can't find any. So right now I'm using a Sennheiser E906. It's the sort of like front-facing microphone. It's like side address, I guess. And yeah, on a, you know, I mean, there's no shock mount or anything like that. You know, that's me hitting the base of the mic stand that's on the desktop. Okay. So that being said, compressor settings. Now, I have Cakewalk open because I'm pretty much going to I'm going to show you what I do, but I'm going to show you how you can duplicate it. And I mean, I don't do processing afterwards. Like basically, I am recording into, let's pull this over. I'm recording into OBS, and so essentially I have my display capture is capturing the screen, and then I have the input going in, and that's it. It's that stupid. Okay. So, and you can see I will bypass the EQ. So there you go. That's the EQ here. And bypass the dynamics. There you go. So that's the dynamics. And that's the EQ. So what does this tell you? It tells you, sorry. Okay. So that's what it is. What does this tell you? This tells you that the dynamics are hitting really, really hard. And if you listen to broadcasting and stuff like that, you'll hear, if you listen to radio, you'll hear the limiters and the dynamics processing work really hard. Okay. What's cool about so this interface, I didn't explain it. The UFX has onboard digital processing, and because of the onboard digital processing, you can either run it on the face of the interface, or you can do it through this interface here. This is basically just the driver. And what happens is so I'm running into the mic preamp 9. Okay. So then this preamp is picking up, and then I run through the dynamic section and the EQ section. Now, I'm not sure what the routing is on that. If it goes through the EQ first and then to the dynamics, that kind of sounds. So I have my gain is juiced, and then EQ. So what I did with the EQ is I have a high pass filter. So this is a low cut, right? And I have it about 100. I don't need, more low frequency. My voice is pretty much, I'm a tenor. So there's not a lot of richness on the bottom end of my voice. But if you notice, is that this green section here so I roll off mid-range, right? So I'm rolling off the mid-range. And what I did to find that is I just looked to see what, I would just look at a frequency. What frequency do I boost and what's the most annoying, right? So essentially I'm just looking for a frequency that just sucks. So I settled at 480 and then I decided, okay, so at some point this is going to start sounding not bad. And then for the bottom end, I mean, I'm boosting 100 just a little bit. So if I pull this down, essentially you're just hearing a little bit of juice on the bottom end of my voice. So I'm putting about, 1.5. All right. So that was it. I mean, I'm really not doing a lot. I'm also not using a pop screen. So sorry about if I'm breathing into the mic. Pop screens are good. Use them. Especially if you're doing like voice acting or something. The other thing is for the 1K, we're bringing that down by about, so this is, again, we're just kind of trying to accommodate what is the mic getting me? What am I hearing? This is just choosing. I'm just making choices sort of as I hear it, like, oh, okay, that sounds good. Okay, so this is the EQ section. Let's talk about dynamics. So you have an expansion, which basically makes the quiet parts quieter. And then you have to speak into the mic or give signal enough to excite the part of, the knee where you're actually going to start hearing. So essentially I can run this a couple of different ways. So right now the gain coming into the dynamics is pushing it so that so the more that I speak, the louder I speak, the more this little white thing is going to go here. It's going to go on the X. And what our processor is doing is going to run it along this line. So this is the signal that I give, and then this is the signal that the system is going to give, right? Okay. So for the expansion ratio, now I can make this really steep. That means that anything that's really low is going to be really. So I said anything that's going to be really low is going to be missed. And I wanted this to sound a little bit more, I don't know, like natural, but you can cut out quite a bit, but it would start to kind of give you a little bit of like a distraction. If I'm speaking into it and it's not hitting the certain threshold, then it'll start to sound a little bit weird, right? So that just kind of sounds weird. I just backed away from the mic. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to give it a little bit of just natural roll into the dynamics part. So for the compressor, what point do I want? So I had to determine how far down the compressor is going to start to work, right? So I would gauge with that little white dot to see at what point can I make it loud enough to where it's getting around like the top edge of this screen. And then I essentially just kind of like just chop it down, right? So you just create a really aggressive ratio. So that's ratio of like 9. Yeah. And then you do what's called a makeup gain. So you add makeup gain. And at that point, everything is going to be right there. You're going to hear everything. That's it. I mean, there's really no, I have the attack at 0 and the release at like 100, but it really doesn't matter. It's just a matter of, making sure that the attack is hitting, immediately and whatnot. So let me back this off a little bit. It's a little aggro. I think I had it at like 4. Okay. So, and the main thing is that I just want to make sure that, getting good level, and I'm, speaking kind of in an even tone. So that's helpful. But for the most part, yeah, that's it. All right. So let's talk about how to get that in Cakewalk. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to record a sample of an unprocessed. So let's do unprocessing. This is a test. I'm testing the level of a potential recording that someone wants to use Cakewalk in order to do voice processing with dynamics processing within Cakewalk. Did that make sense? I don't know. But here's when I'm going to get kind of dynamic. I'm going to get kind of dynamic, and it's just so that we can see that the compressor and the preamp and the EQ and everything like that is going to work well. Okay, that's it. Okay, so let's go through. I'm going to put on a few different. So let's go through Sonatus and Sonatus. Now I'm using Sonatus because I want to explain that you don't need fancy pants stuff. You can use just the regular stuff. Also, you can use the glossy Q in this here if you put the compressor in line. And you can either choose to put the compressor after the EQ or before. That's up to you. Okay, so if that's the case, then let's just use the glossy EQ because it looks nicer. Look at this. Doesn't that look nice? Looks nice, right? Okay. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to play this back. I want to demonstrate that this UI is pretty ubiquitous. I mean, this essentially gives you the same thing, except for you don't get a an expander. That would be so. This is going to be an expander, and so if you set the depth and you have the input, what happens is, let me mute that, and then what happens is that you can decide at what point you're going to cut out anything that comes in, but you want to make sure that it's kind of reasonable or whatnot. All right. So anyways, that gate should be before everything. Okay. You'll ask a question, why aren't I using like one of the analog models? Well, that's not what my signal chain is. It's completely digital, right? Okay, so let's listen to a couple of loops of my Goober track, and then I'll talk about it as what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same kind of thing with the EQ where I cut off some of the lows. I'm going to have more, so I cut down the lows. I gave a little boost in the 100 frequency range, right? So that was 100. And then I cut out, let's see. So I cut 8 off of 480 at sort of a moderate Q level, and a little bit more, a little more aggressive Q, but about 8.5 at 1K. So basically, and that's what I'm going to do for the EQ. And then for the compressor, I'm basically just going to set it so that I can, we can do the expansion. I'm not going to worry too much about the expansion yet, but essentially the compression, I'm just going to have the, so this little guy is going to dance around this area. and the ratio, I'm going to pull this down quite a bit so that you're going to get, and then the knee. I want to just have it like really aggressive. That's what you're hearing is really aggressive. The attack setting is really low. It's a pretty quick release because we just want to make sure that that it's not like pumping too much, but we can see how that'll work. Okay. So I'm going to, I should mute myself. Go mute yourself. Okay. This is a test. I'm testing the level of a potential recording that someone wants to use Cakewalk in order to do voice processing with dynamics processing within Cakewalk. Did that make sense? I don't know. But here's when I'm going to get kind of dynamic. I'm going to get kind of dynamic, and it's just so that we can see that the compressor and the preamp and the EQ and everything like that is going to work well. Okay, that's it. This is a test. I'm testing the level of a potential recording that someone wants to use Cakewalk in order to do voice processing with dynamics processing within Cakewalk. Did that make sense? I don't know. But here's when I'm going to get kind of dynamic. I'm going to get kind of dynamic, and it's just so that we can see that the compressor and the preamp and the EQ and everything like that is going to work well. This is a test. I'm testing the level of a potential recording that someone wants to use Cakewalk in order to do voice processing with dynamics processing within Cakewalk. Did that make sense? I don't know. But here's when I'm going to get kind of dynamic. I'm going to get kind of dynamic, and it's just so that we can see that the compressor and the preamp and the EQ and everything like that is going to work well. Okay, that's it. This is a test. I'm testing the level of a potential recording that someone wants to use Cakewalk in order to do voice processing with dynamics processing within Cakewalk. Did that make sense? I don't know. But here's when I'm going to get kind of dynamic. I'm going to get kind of dynamic, and it's just so that we can see that the compressor and the preamp. Okay, so realistically, what we're seeing is that it's, I mean, the EQ setting like that, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. You could totally hear where, the voice started to sort of became a little bit sweeter once the, these frequencies got pulled out. And then the other thing is once the compressor, so it got quieter, and then I had to add the makeup gain. And once the makeup gain was added, then you started to hear it become more sort of vibrant and stuff. And so the gate doesn't necessarily work the same way as the expander. It's kind of different in the way that it works. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's the same, but that's essentially how you can get that in Cakewalk software. Now, the real magic of it is basically this compressor, or any, you could use the Melda compressor. That's free. You could use, any number of other compressors. They all work the same. And what you end up with is just a really front-faced sound, and that's it. So you don't have to use a really fancy microphone. Just get one that works pretty well for your voice. And I didn't really, I used the 906. It was just laying around, and I said, yeah, you know what? I should, use that because why not? I got some SM57s, the Unidyne model, the USA ones that were, from like I I think what, the 70s or something like that. And I used that a while back, and that sounded good. I mean, you know, I know a lot of people use the SM7s, which are good, but really it's, you know, the magic is in how you compress it and the EQ and stuff. So, yeah, that's it. So the name of the game is compression and EQ, and just get those frequencies that kind of suck out. And, you know, keep in mind, they're not necessarily, they don't suck because your voice isn't like optimized for that. You know, it could be the, you know, it could be a room node, could be the, you know, the design of the microphone itself. There's any number of reasons why you would need to pull out some of that, some of those frequencies. So just look for the stuff that doesn't sound good, pull it out. That's why when you put the compressor in and you give it that makeup gain, it's, you want to do that. You want to do that with a good sounding signal. Okay. I've rambled on too much. If you have any other questions, please let me know. All right. Thanks.